Well, we want to welcome you back to the Lucky 13 podcast.
Here
I do want to let our listeners know that I'm Mike Lantz, by the way.
I'm Josh.
That's Josh. This will be our last episode because I just learned that my co-host did not watch the Pacers
Goodness gracious.
in Game 6 against the New York Knicks this past weekend. This will be released in a couple of weeks, so we're back in the future here. But you had a good reason why you didn't watch it. But that fourth quarter in that game against the Knicks, we're talking about Game 6, was the greatest quarter of basketball I've ever seen.
Well, thank you first of all for handing me a shame blanket.
We're really not. This really isn't the last episode. But I contemplated when I found out you didn't watch.
Yeah, you almost broke up with me. I thought prom was over.
We're good. We're good. But
no, you had kids home, and it was. You make choices in life, and it sounds like I missed one of the best quarters of all time. Were you there live, or did you watch it on TV?
I watched it on TV.
Okay.
And it was.
Were you yelling and hollering and cheering at home?
Oh, I had the rally towel out, the hype towel.
Tell me you weren't by yourself?
No, it was my wife was with me, and Jackson was home, and my daughter Madeline, and then Parker, my sister's boyfriend.
Because if you were by yourself doing the rally towel, that's a different conversation.
No, listen, who knows what we might go and play Oklahoma and get our doors blown off. I have no idea because haven't really watched Oklahoma City play that much. But it was the great talk about teamwork and selflessness and all of the things that are so important in a team. It was just really
There's
fun
a lot
to
of
watch.
business lessons, family lessons, life lessons to be watched in one quarter.
It just brings me back. We're about the same age. Well, I'm older than you, but brings me back to some really fun times back in 2000 when the Pacers made the finals, played the Lakers.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was just some really great times.
I did watch
in
all
our
those
city.
games, by the way.
Yeah, well.
I only had a 1-year-old, 2-year-old.
Yeah, I was going to say, you didn't have all the 8.
Yeah.
So we were talking last episode about this 8 + 8 + 8 rule.
And you promised us some framework. So walk us through the 8x8x8.
Yeah, so the 8x8x8, as you said, it's that's 24 hours. And so the idea is you have 8 hours of hard work, 8 hours of good sleep, and 8 hours should be spent on the 3 Fs, 3 Hs, and 3 S's every single day. This is your framework that you brought to the table. So the 3 Fs are family, friends, and faith. 3 Hs are health, hygiene, and hobby. And 3 S's are soul, service, and smile.
And not hours on each one. Those are just the 3 things.
Those are the 3 things, but those equal about 8 hours of your day. So, and listen, that is perfectly balanced, and we understand that perfect balance is not a thing.
Nope.
But integration and flexibility and all of that kind of stuff. But if you find yourself where you're spending, 16 on work every single day for an extended period of time.
6 hours of sleep and 2 hours with your family.
Yeah, then that becomes...
That was really good math, by the way.
Then that creates a tremendous amount of long-term tension if it looks like that.
It'll add up. You can do whatever. You can act out a character for a short time, but if you keep doing it, it's going to add up.
Yeah, and so we've talked about that in the past, like just communicating with your kids, your spouse, whatever, to say, hey, I'm going into a season, a month or 2 months where I'm acquiring a business or I'm selling a business or I'm, whatever. We're trying to dig ourselves out of whatever it may be going on.
Can't tell you how many companies call that. Just we're going into a sprint. Just be prepared.
And you know what? The opposite can happen too. Like, I've been vocal about this. My mom passed away in December. And the past 5 months, we closed on my dad's house today. Right? But
good for you.
Since December, I've went to my team and I said, listen, I just need you guys to know that I'm pretty much my dad's primary caregiver. Yep. And I need to invest a bunch of time there. And I appreciate, just like we've picked up our team members at certain times.
Absolutely.
So it can work the opposite way too.
Absolutely.
It's not just all about work.
Yeah.
But back in I might have shared some of this, but back in 1998, 96, I went through a kind of a life thing where I was kind of a workaholic and I had some things happen in my life that weren't optimal at the time. At least I didn't think so. And so I hired a coach. And I was in the residential real estate world and I was working 80 hours a week. I was only 25 years old at the time, but I was loving it, making a lot of money.
Yep.
I was becoming addicted to the money and the hours and all of this. And it cost me a relationship, which thank God, because then I never would have met Julie. But so I hired this coach, and he basically told me that I could not work more than 40 hours a week. And I lost my mind. I'm like, are you kidding me? And the first thing I said, there's no way I can do this job. And he said, well, here's what you're going to do for the next 2 weeks. You are going to track your time in 15-minute increments.
Okay.
So every 15 minutes, you need to stop and write down what you just did in that 15 minutes. And the first thing we're going to do is you're going to bucket those. You're going to have categories, right?
Love it.
And so category could be spent 15 minutes in the restroom. Yeah. It could be I spent 15 minutes doing this.
What'd you eat?
It's Taco Tuesday,
so
Okay. No matter what it is. So there are all these different buckets. So I spent 2 weeks going through and tracking my time. And it was I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh, yeah.
And I showed up, and this is still when I'm doing.
You're auditing your life for a little bit.
This is still when he hadn't said I can only work 40 hours.
Hadn't given you any ideas. You just want to see what it looked like.
Yeah. So I'm still working 70 hours a week. And so I did this for 2 weeks, and then I came back to him, and he said, "All right, we're going to bucket all of these into certain buckets." And he asked me this question. So your job means a lot to you, and succeeding in your job means a lot to you. What is the number one thing that you have to do in real estate, residential real estate, to succeed in your job? And I said, I got to find new business. I got to sell houses. Mm-hmm. He's like, well, we're going to call those dollar productive activities. Okay. Here's how he defined it: any activity that had a high likelihood of generating revenue.
Got it.
Okay. So it could be going and holding an open house, or it could be cold calling, or it could be networking, or it could be whatever. But those professionally, that ended up being the main piece. So then he had me track my time for another 2 weeks. And then at the end of those 2 weeks, he said, how many hours per week did you average in the last 2 weeks on dollar productive activities? Now, mind you, I worked about 70 hours both of those.
How much was it?
14 hours. On, at least work-wise, on the most important things.
Yeah.
Right? So that was a huge eye-opener to me, basically to show me that I was spending a lot of time at the office.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doing stuff that really didn't matter.
20% of your time.
Right?
Yep.
And instead of taking some of that to being hyper-focused on the things that really mattered, so that I had time in my life for all the other things.
Understood.
Right? So what he basically put me through this exercise is this ideal week exercise. And I'm not winning any Nobel Peace Prize for this, okay? So it's pretty logical, but I use this.
Simple's easy.
Simple. So I have this, think about an Excel spreadsheet, and you've got days across the top, Monday through Saturday, or Monday through Sunday, because I always start my week on a Monday, and then times down the left hand. And you quiet, turn off the phones, computers, the whole thing. And first step is you make a list of everything that you have going on in your life that are commitments that you have.
Okay.
And we talked a few episodes about saying no to some commitments and all that.
Absolutely.
But like the fact of the matter is, when I started having kids, it wasn't okay for me to say, well, I'm not going to spend time with them.
No.
Right? It wasn't okay for me to say I'm not going to nurture my business. It wasn't okay to say I wasn't going to nurture my relationship or my faith or whatever. But I made this list of everything that at that point in time in my life I was committed to. And then my job is I had to find time on that calendar for every single one of those things.
Wow.
Okay. Now the first step was finding time for the stuff I was committed to. I wasn't committed to my golf game.
Non-negotiables. Yeah.
I wasn't committed to my golf game anymore. So that came off the list. And I've never really enjoyed golf, but going out and spending 5 hours on a golf course with a buddy of mine on a Saturday when I got 5 kids at home was not an option.
I understand that.
So making that list, right? And then those become your big rocks.
Good word.
And you plot them throughout the week. So when is the optimum time for me to do that? Like the optimum time for me to have a date night with my wife was not at 9 o'clock on a Thursday morning. Okay. The optimum time for me to spend time with my kids was not at 2 p.m. when they're still in school. So you start to build out your perfect week, and everything that you said you were committed to has to have a slot.
Got to have a place on it. If you don't control your calendar, somebody else will, so we're putting it on there.
And once you have that, those become your big rocks. And you could even go to the place of like, what are the big rocks? What are the smaller rocks? What are the pebbles? What's the sand and what's the water? Right? You can think about it from that perspective,
Absolutely.
Right? And you chart everything out, and you'd be shocked at how much white space is left in your week.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And then that's where everything else falls. And then you put it on your calendar, okay? And you have to commit to it.
You got to work around that now.
You have to work around that now. So when somebody calls you up and says, hey, we have this networking event on a Thursday night, and that's date night.
Yeah.
You have two choices. Okay. Choice number one is to say no. Mm-hmm. If it's something like if it's a client that calls up and says, we've got to have you here, the only way I can accept that is if I can move that date night to another night and my wife is okay with it.
You have to get that approved and rescheduled before you say yes.
But I have to have a spot for it. I can't just say, we're not doing it this week. And that's why it's important to leave white space on your calendars. And I
love it.
I preach this to the leaders of my company and to the leaders of the companies that we consult with. Leaders have to have white space on their calendars to available to their people.
100%. I can't tell you how many calendars I look at that can't get with them for 3 weeks. Everything's blocked.
That is insane, right?
It makes your head itch.
Yeah. And because we have to be available to our employees.
Yep.
And I really learned this, a lot through Dave Lindsay, who is the owner of Defenders. if you looked at his calendar, like there was so much room on his calendar for working on the business time, being available to the people that he led, being able to, if a friend called up and said, I need your help with something, to be able to say yes to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I can't right now, but 2:00, I have some white space. Let's take it.
Yeah, exactly. And so I found this to be like game changing for me. And my calendar today doesn't look the same way my calendar looked like 20 years ago when I first did this, or 25 years ago when I first did this. It's very different. And sometimes what I would encourage, we led off the last episode by talking about we're rolling into summer. It's possible that your summer calendar could look totally different
than your fall
calendar.
Absolutely.
And because you like to play golf, or because your kids are off of school,
you got a 13-week window.
Yeah. And your winter calendar may look very, very different. You may work a lot more throughout the winter because you don't have all these other things that you're trying to fill in.
So let me be an entrepreneur with you real quick.
Yeah.
And you're going to coach me through this exercise because I want somebody at home, as they're listening, to be writing down. So first thing I'm going to do, I just want to replay everything, and I'm going to write down, I'm going to call it commitments. I'm going to use EOS term would be rocks.
Yep.
The non-negotiables. These are, I can't distract from them.
Right.
Date night.
Time with your kids.
Time with my kids. My L10 meeting with my team.
Yeah.
XYZ. I need to list all the things that either daily, weekly, or monthly have to get listed on my calendar. Okay.
Yeah.
And did you do this on a monthly time frame, on a weekly time frame? Help me out a little bit.
Well, here's the problem with doing it monthly. Okay. I like to look at it a quarter at a time.
Okay.
Because here's the thing. If you looked at this on a monthly or even a weekly or whatever, you won't be able to clear out your calendar.
Got it.
Right? So like right now, I've challenged some people that are either clients of mine or even my own internal team. Do this exercise starting July 1.
Okay.
Because there's just things that are on their calendar here in June that they don't want to cancel, they can't get out of, whatever.
Yeah.
But, July 1 forward is probably pretty open. So you can make whatever adjustments you really need to make. But if you're just doing this on a weekly basis or a quarterly basis or whatever, then you can't have any type of rhythm.
I love that. And so what I heard you say is the terms I use, and I've probably said this before, too many people go through a revolution, and that feels like a war. This is an evolution.
Yeah.
So you got to plan for this,
Yes.
and then start letting that evolution become part of who your new you is.
Yeah.
Good with that? So we're going from caterpillar to butterfly, and you got to plan that out.
Before you go to that step, though, I don't want to miss the step that I described first, which is to track your time for a period of time.
So
because that's the
let's
leverage.
Go backwards and go forwards.
That's the proof point for you that this will benefit you.
So I would that is, can you audit yourself? For 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And just really audit it. And when you're done, who creates the buckets? Can I create the buckets? Do I need a peer to create the buckets?
No, you create the buckets.
Okay. And give me some examples of ideal buckets. So,
So they're big, right?
Could we use this 8x8 concept?
Yeah, exactly. That's what triggered this for me. It could be family time.
Okay.
It could be relationship time. It could be work time. It could be health and wellness. It could be faith time. Whatever. Those could be the buckets.
And do me a favor. Take me down the work time. Can the work time break into its own buckets?
Yes. And so I talked about that.
Please.
Dollar productive activity. So I was basically in sales, and so sitting there in front of the coffee pot shooting the shit with my coworkers is not dollar productive activity.
That's costing money.
That's costing money. Now, I am a relational guy, so I like doing that. But I have to understand that if I'm doing that, that isn't doing the stuff that I'm paid to do.
Correct.
Right? Or we've talked about only doing work that is at your, it sounds bad, it's your pay grade.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? You're costing your company money if you're doing stuff at a $20 an hour rate when you're a $500
Can you imagine having a team around you that understands this as well?
Yeah.
And saying, hey, I appreciate you helping me right now, but I need you to go do the $500 work, or my job's not going to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks for helping me. I got to do this.
Yeah.
You got to go do that.
Yeah. So it's really, and I've met some really, really great leaders who are like, I'll do anything. I'll take the trash out. Of course you will.
Yeah, we know that.
I know that. But that, and there's this piece of like, with some people, like, well, I need to prove that by letting them see me take the trash out.
Yeah.
I think your people, if they know you well enough, know you'll take the trash out.
And it's okay to do it every once in a while.
Yeah.
See a need, fill a need.
Yeah.
But not, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
That's a big difference between seeing a need, filling a need, and I'm going to do it.
Yeah. So maybe a better way to put this is, one bucket can be time doing the things that nobody else in your organization can do.
Yeah, your unique ability that nobody else has.
That's exactly right.
And that's where the accountability chart comes in. I'm thinking out loud.
Yeah.
let me speak EOS for a second. What happens if I take my responsibilities on the work side and make that part of my buckets?
Perfect.
How much time am I spending in those 5 core roles? And then, okay, if I'm not spending time in there, where's my extra time going then?
Yeah.
And that'd be a great question to ask.
Well, if you think about it, like if you're working 8 hours a day, okay, which the fact of the matter is that most entrepreneurs that I know are working more than 8 hours a day.
And even if it might be 8 hours on location, but there's another 4 wherever you're at.
Yeah, right. So bucket, to your point, take those 5 things that you're most responsible for and start tracking the hours of doing those things.
And get your team to do the same.
Yeah. And I think it'll shock people at how little time they're spending doing those
Here's
things.
what I think I'm going to find in the work world that a lot of people I work with on the EOS front is I think they're going to find out that they're spending a lot of time in other people's roles, doing other people's jobs. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait a minute. So why are they there again? So either you're not coaching, mentoring, developing, and uplifting them, delegate and elevate, or you've actually handcuffed them. You're in a command and control, and you have somebody there just to watch you do what you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
And that's a real thing.
Yeah. So step 1 is tracking your time.
Love it. So we're going to, everybody at home, right now, just put a spreadsheet together, 15 minutes a day for 2 weeks. Let's just get that done.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just track your time, right? And there's no right answer. There's no wrong answer in the next 2 weeks.
You're just doing an MRI.
Then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to look at those things and you're going to bucket them into whatever the logical buckets are for you in your life.
Let's do the 3 Fs, the 3 Hs, the 3 S's, and then your 5 rules, just as an example. Perfect. We'll put that sheet on there, the 8x8 rule, and so everybody can see that.
So then you're going to bucket things, and you may look at it and go, man, I'm spending time exactly where I need to spend time. If that's the case, great. There's still a next step, okay? If it's not the case, then you need to start to say, okay, where are the adjustments that need to be made?
Yeah, aware and adapt.
Right, and then now you have all of these things listed out, and you start to place them in your calendar. Even if you're spending all of the right time in all the right buckets, let's go ahead and be intentional about planning those things out and get them on your calendar.
There's a reason. I bet you everybody listening at home right now, I hope, unless you're in Southern Indiana, has a dentist appointment pre-scheduled right now.
Yeah, probably.
Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And it's already on the calendar.
Yeah.
And we honor that like no other.
Yeah.
Why don't we do the same thing for ourselves?
Yeah.
We do it for the stranger who literally talks to us when we can't talk back and puts metal things in our teeth.
Yeah.
But we don't do this on our daily.
Yeah. I had my annual physical 2 weeks ago, and when I'm walking out, they're like, do you just want to call and schedule the next one? I go, no, let's do it.
Get it down.
It's on the exact same day it was this year or next year.
Got it.
Go ahead and schedule it. And so all of those important things. And here's the cool thing about it. Everybody's priorities are different. So there is no right answer.
And there's seasons of life where that can change a little bit too.
Yeah.
Like with just what we talked about. Summertime could be different than wintertime.
That's right.
That's right. And your business seasonality can make a difference to it.
But if summertime is going to be different, don't wait until July or June 1 to start planning that. Start thinking about it in March.
Yeah.
So that you can when you're accepting commitments for June in April, it's fitting up with your schedule moving forward.
We quoted Brian Neal. I love one of the statements he makes. You want to see how good your people are doing? Look at their calendar 2 weeks out. Over the next 2 weeks, you can see what their plans are.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying, if you want to be a good entrepreneur, what I'm hearing you say, I should say, is if you want to be a good entrepreneur, look at your 90-day calendar.
Yeah.
How much of your intentional of what you're trying to do is planned, and then how much white space do you have to fill the gaps? Or are you just planning 80 hours a week and just hopping in the car and driving as fast as you can? It's almost like Days of Thunder. If you remember that, when he said, drive the car your way for 40 laps, drive the car my way for 40 laps, my time will be faster.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing you say. You drive your car for 40 days or for 2 weeks your way, then go retrack it and then drive it that way and see if you're getting more productivity. And I'm going to use the word peace, a little bit more peace and quiet out of that.
Yeah, 100%. So then once you've charted it all out, then it's a discipline game. Because now you've got it on your calendar.
Success loves discipline.
Like put it on your, whether you use Outlook or Google or whatever, go and hold those spaces.
Are you going to hold to it?
And then you've got to be disciplined. And the discipline that I decided to subscribe to, because back then, and it's all, I could wake up one morning and I could have clients call me up and actually need my help today.
Emergency.
Right? But I leave enough space. I call it fire time. Okay. Because I can't predict when the fires are going to happen.
Oh, absolutely.
HR doesn't happen on a schedule. Right. But I got to make sure that I can move time around. So if I'm supposed to go and do something right after we shoot this podcast, but I hit my phone afterwards and it's a client that needs me right now, I need to make sure that I've got room in the week somewhere where I can move what I was about ready to go do.
Got it.
Right. And now it's a trade-off, right? But
It is.
You've got to have that space. So
but if you have that agreement with the people in front of, hey, this is the time out, unless I have an emergency.
Yeah.
So, and what an easy statement to make.
Yeah.
We're going to do this podcast at 9:00.
Yeah.
Unless I have an emergency.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've had a couple of those.
We've
right?
had, both of us have.
Yeah. And so you have that flexibility. But if you are scheduled wall to wall every single day, then you don't have any room to move things around.
No.
And so then things that you said in the safety of the bunker, in your clarity break time, and you said, this is important to me, you just got rid of it because you have to go respond to something. It's a fire. You have to go deal with that. And you're sacrificing what you said you were going to go do, and there's no other place to put it this week.
God, if I'm a visionary and integrator right now, I'm like, holy smokes, I know what I'm doing the month of June. I'm going to work through this for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Two of us are going to hold each other accountable to this, because as goes the leadership team, goes the rest of the organization, as goes the entrepreneur, as goes the founder, the owner.
Yeah.
If you can get this into place, you're going to desire to do it so well that you're going to start to teach it, and then you'll start teaching it, and you'll find out your organization all follows.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And I like I really like the connection you just made about your 5 to 7. That's, there's all this stuff in the personal world, and that's easy to schedule out. I think the big minutia bucket is the work.
Yeah.
Is the work piece. And if we align all of that with the 5 to 7, I think
and
that's
then we
magic.
just put, those are investments, and then how much time am I, and the minutia stuff are these expenses or investments, and then you'll even get clearer and clearer.
Yeah. And then every once in a while you just audit it. We have it at True U. We have a tool called Harvest, and it's actually a time tracking tool. There's a lot of free tools out there too,
absolutely.
where if you want to, you can, it can hook into your computer, and you can just hit a little button that says time track on anything that you're doing. You can even hook it to different appointments and events and things like that you have, and categorize them, and so that you
I need to do that with cheesy bowls, because cheesy poofs I need to time track. I need to limit my time eating cheesy poofs.
Well, or just count the number of cheesy poofs. Get one of your kids to sit there and those clickers that you have.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That they count. Daddy, you're up to 400. Okay. Should we stop now?
The shame blanket you laid on me with the Pacers just had been layered with my cheesy poof issue. Yeah. So good.
Yeah. Hey, it's become a real big realization to me and those around me, and I think to you, we can always make more money.
Yeah. There's 1,000 ways to go do it.
We can go make more money. We can go. We can go and make more food. We can go and there's a lot of things that we can produce more of.
Oh yeah.
Time is not one of those.
No, it's the inventory that we got to control.
Yeah. And as I get older, I'm only 55. I got a lot of time in front of me, but as I get older, but I see my dad who's 87, it's reality. You run out of time.
Yeah.
And we've got to make sure that we're spending the time doing the things that really matter in life.
Yeah.
And work is one of those. I mean, we were put on this planet
to contribute.
If you ever want to go biblical on this, there are so many references around work in the Bible, for example.
You need to contribute.
That's why we're here. But we got to make sure that we're doing it in the right way.
No, man. Find your purpose and go do it.
Yeah.